So over the next couple of weeks, we just wanted to bring you guys into our room. Instead of like preaching to you or preaching at you, we wanted to just kind of bring you into some of the conversations that we have in our household. Not that it will amount to a hill of beans in your life, but it might just change one. A lot of times we talk about how, like, just people be so heavenly bound that they're no earthly good. Like, we be so focused on heaven, Bible thumping, church stuff, that we forget at times to live. And a lot of preachers always talking about heaven, how are we gonna get to heaven? And it's like, a lot of us are like, I got a few years before, if nothing happens, I got a few years before I get to heaven. Like, how am I supposed to live here on earth? And a lot of times we don't know how to live here on earth and what that looks like, and how we can live in abundance, how we can have the things that we aspire to have, and how we can not only have them, but how we can like take the steps to start working towards getting those things. And a lot of times we say things like faith without works is dead. And we think that God is just going to do everything for us. And that's just simply not the case. And this is one of the conversations in the Morris household that we have a lot of times. We talk about, like, how can I make an impact on earth? How can I do what God has called me to do here? Because he sent me here for a reason. I'm not here just to go to heaven.
Right.
Like, I want to go to heaven.
Yes.
I definitely want to go to heaven.
Yes,
I definitely
Lord.
want to talk about heaven. It's good to like look into what that looks like. But what about heaven on earth? Like, why do I got to live in hell while I'm here until I can get to I don't think God would want us to live in hell for 100 years, right? And then die and go to heaven. And then we can experience some kind of, like, he wants us to experience
good here.
peace and joy and love on earth and spread that out to other people. And you were asking the question, like, how does, you asked the question because you can answer better than me.
I was basically saying, like, like the stars who have came from absolutely nothing and have become millionaires and billionaires, like, how, they say they lived in the trenches, and, how they just lived in the projects, as they say, or, in horrible places, and they didn't have much growing up. Like, how, like, once they become rich, do they, like, know the nice stuff? Like, so, like, I know that, like, like with your house and stuff, you can get an interior designer and they can come in and lavish your house and just make everything look good. But, like, how do they know, like, the diamonds, like what looks good, like the carat numbers, like how many to get, and like, like what's like the best type of car and what you should be getting in the inside. Like, if you came from nothing, like, how do you get rich and know how to automatically just
be popping?
Yeah, get the popping stuff. Like, how when you just never have been around it and don't know it, like.
And the one thing that I was saying to her is, you can't get that stuff unless you are that stuff. Or like, when you are in the pursuit of getting wealth, and please understand, like, it's not about wealth. Like, wealth has not, this is just us bringing y'all into our conversation. Like, this has nothing to do with whether you get into heaven or not. Like, it don't got nothing to do with that. It's just a conversation. But if you don't, like, try to see yourself having something, you never will have it. So all of these stars, before they get money, they see themselves with money. They put themselves in situations, or they're constantly looking at what they want to be. So therefore, when you get there, you already know what you like. You know what I'm saying? And it's really easy. A lot of times we think, and also they change their surroundings.
True.
When you start to like come up on the come up, you can't keep your mind and keep your conversations around what they've always been around. Like, yes, I'm going to always go back to my family. I may always go back to my hood. However, I changed my environment and I changed my people. And when you shift your people and you shift your environment, it brings on a different thought process. When God brings people into your life that have what you want to have, they have a different mindset. Right. They have a different language.
And they expose you to different things.
Exactly. And either you're going to come up to that, or you're going to stay where you are. And most of the time when these celebrities get this money, they come up to that standard. True. And not that like diamonds and nice houses and stuff are the standard. Right. However, it's just the benefit of having. right?
If that's
So,
what you want and if that's what you like. Because there
Right.
are some, I guess,
there are some billionaires that,
and
wearing New Balances and
Okay.
old Levi jeans.
Cutlass cars if they still got them.
Exactly. So it just depends on where your heart
What
is.
you like.
And you gotta make sure that the stuff doesn't have you. That you
Right.
have the stuff.
Mhm.
And that's a lot of times, like a lot of faith people don't have, because we just believe God, but we don't put no works behind it. And you're not going to get anything if you just, you can sit in your house all day and believe God, but God is like, you need to go out and work for it.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to get anything if you don't work
Like
for
God not just gonna drop stuff, and like God's not gonna drop $1 million in your lap,
it. Right.
but He'll give you a roadway to success, to try and figure it out along the way. Because at the end of the day, He normally always is using somebody
Yeah.
to bless you. So
up
it's
to-
up to you.
That's the key.
Yeah,
That's the
somebody.
key. He's always going to use a person. If God is going to bring you to the next level or take you to the next level, it's always going to come through a person. And you have to be aware of the opportunities that God has blessed you with and not abuse those opportunities, or you just don't see them.
Or treat people any kind of way, because you don't know who, and it might be somebody that you might think not have much, but they might have access to resources. And sometimes we treat who we think little people as such, right? We treat them where we think they are on that level, but it's important because other people are watching you, and it might be somebody else that's watching you treat somebody bad and be like, you know what?
And they were the one that God was laying on their heart to bless you, but then
Yeah.
they see that and they're like, oh no,
Yeah,
I'm not. And we have to be careful, because a lot of times we put a lot of our energy in stuff that makes us look good, and the stuff that don't make us look good, we ignore. And a lot of times the blessing is taking care of that person that you're talking about. And a lot of times we think that the blessing is in being seen, but that's not the blessing. The blessing is taking care of the least of those. And a lot of times we don't want to take care of the small things, but we ask God for the big stuff. And it's like, until you can handle the small, you're not getting the big.
That's right.
Because if you get the big before you can handle the small, you'll misuse the big and you'll lose the big. And that's where God is trying to get us to mature in our relationships, in our finances, not only in our church life, because a lot of times we're real church heavy and we know God and we this and we that and we can do this and we can do that, but we broke. And that's not the life that God has. That's not the life God wants us to have. He wants us to have a life of abundance, but He wants us to have wisdom. Like that's been my prayer for the last few months. It's just been laid on my heart. Like, God, give me wisdom.
Yeah.
Because if I get the stuff and I don't have the wisdom to maintain the stuff, I'm going to lose it all.
Absolutely.
But my wisdom is what leaves the legacy.
And we know somebody, like this had been years ago, that this person who didn't have much had came into some money, a big lump sum of money, and they just blew it. They blew all the money. They didn't have a plan. They didn't ask God for wisdom and strategies on how to spend the money wisely. Like, they literally blew the money. And I want to say that they were back broke again in less than a year. They had just went through all of this money. So I try to tell people, do you got a plan for what you know what I mean? You want this money. Do you have a plan? What you going to do with it? Where you going to put it? How you not going to spend it all? Who you telling too? Because sometimes keep it to yourself, because everybody don't need to know.
That's true.
And then you got cousins that you didn't know was cousins that's attaching themselves to But you gotta have a plan. You gotta know what you're gonna do with it.
You gotta have a plan, but in order to maintain God, and it's not even a but, you gotta have a plan. And in order to maintain what God has given you, this is where most of us get it wrong, and we'll get you out of this conversation after this. This is where most of us get it wrong, and I just had this conversation. We're not givers. We are takers. And when God blesses us, and I know a lot of us that look like us, we have to work really hard to get the stuff that we get, work harder than most people or sometimes other people. We have to work really hard to keep and maintain stuff. So a lot of times in the pursuit of maintaining, we forget that we have to have the heart of a giver in order to be and think like God. And God blesses givers. So when you are a taker, you will get something one time or a couple of times, but it'll leave because all you are is a taker. But when you are a giver, God gives resources to givers. Like, if you give out of the abundance of your heart and because you want to give, not because you can like put it on social media and tell people like, oh, I did this, that ain't what it is. That's not what it's about.
Yeah.
But if you give with a pure heart and a sincere heart, like a lot of times we come to church, right? And we think giving God $5, now, of course, you are giving this money to a church, right? But you're supposed to be sowing into good ground, into a church that is in the community, doing good things, doing good deeds for people. So this is why we give. Like, of course, you're not giving it to God. It's the act, it's the principle. Like, I am giving into God's work. And as I give into God's work, God blesses me. But a lot of times we come to church and we give God $1, we give God still. In 2023, we give God $5. And then we leave church and give McDonald's $25 for the same meal that 5 years ago was $6. You know what I'm saying?
True.
And we don't even think about it. You might have on a pair of $300 J's, but then when we come into church, we don't really give. And the reason why I'm talking about church specifically is because that is one opportunity that we have to give. And a lot of people talk about, well, I don't want to get to that church. I don't want to get to that preacher because he riding around. And it's not about that. And a lot of times that's the one thing that I love about us is, and I'm just be real transparent about this situation right here, is when I felt God was calling me into ministry, I told God, I gave God an ultimatum. I was like, God, I'll do it, but you got to bless me financially first. You got to bless me as a man, as a husband, as a father. I wasn't a father then, but you got to bless me in all of these areas first, because the one thing that I don't want being held over my head is that people take care of me or people take care of my family. So God, if you're really calling me into ministry, establish me as a businessman first. And I didn't even know what my business was going to be. I had no idea, but I'm like, God, I felt the call to ministry. But what I didn't want to do is go into ministry and then seem like I was coming on to come up. Like, I wanted to come up first so that when I went into ministry, people can know this ain't about money. This is not about status. Like, this is about loving God and loving his people. And as soon as I prayed that prayer, not even maybe like a few months later, it's when God brought us into the opportunities that we have. And he established me as a businessman, and he established me financially first, because really, if you really are in the church, and if you really are a part of the church, you know that there's not a lot of money in being a part of the church.
Okay.
Like, so when people think like the man of God has a Cadillac, he has a nice house, 9 times out of 10, he had that stuff and got that stuff on his own. Yeah, like especially around here in Delaware, like you ain't making no money being no pastor. Like, if you pastor here, it's because you love God. I mean, because it ain't for no money. I'm telling you that right now. And we have to understand that when God blesses us, it is to be a blessing. And that's why when I come to church, I look for opportunities to be a blessing, not only to the church offering plate, but also to the members and to the people. Like, you're not going to be around me struggling. Right. And I know it and can do something about it. Now, if you are ignorant, or if I have tried to give you advice and you don't take nobody's advice and you just always are in bad situations, I'm not helping a person like that.
Right.
But if you just have come up on a bad time or hard times and you need help, that's what the church is. Like, that's who we are. And that's what my church is always going to be. Like, we're going to stand with those that are trying.
Always.
That are trying and that are trying to do the things that God has called them to do. But if you just always, now this is why you have to have wisdom, because you can't help everybody. But if a person doesn't have a heart of a giver, and this is the purpose of a church, I'm about to get in trouble. This is my idea of what church should be. If you have sown into this ministry for 20, even 10, even 5 years, not only in your money, but in your time, in your faithfulness, in your talents, and you come up on hard times, as a church, it's our job to carry that for you until you can come out of it. Now, we got to put certain things in place where you ain't abusing the church and misusing the stuff, but there might be some accountability that needs to take place so that we don't get back into the situation. However, if you have sown into this ministry, I feel it's our job to help you get out of that bad situation. And this is how a real church should look, where we take care of our people, we take care of our family members. Like I always, I'm real big. And I thank God that he blessed us with finances and businesses before he fully really allowed us to go into ministry, because now we can focus on that. We don't have to combat what people think, they see your car and like, he got that from the, no, he didn't. They ride past your house, he got, no, he didn't, because truth be told, and we have to learn to have the heart of givers. If y'all want money, y'all want stuff, but you don't give. you don't do nothing. And we have
And
to
giving
understand.
don't have to just be money.
Right.
Giving can be your time. It can be your resources. Whatever you have that's available to help somebody else in need is just what it is. And I love too, and it's not even just about church, because even in our business, exactly what you're saying, doing, like if you around me, or, if you work at Love Drives, I don't want to see you struggling. You know what I'm saying? And if you,
Now, if you're watching this, don't be playing around. Don't be watching
They
this and say
already
they
know.
said no.
They already know. Like, we know our people.
That's true.
Like, we
That's true.
know our people. And I mean, they be like, just like, wow, Miss Mel. I'm like, yeah, like, I know you. So, I mean, if I can, and I know that you not just out here. Now, if you just out here getting your paycheck and you just spending it every weekend because you just want to be having fun, that's totally something different, and I know that. But if you connected to us, and you know what I'm saying, like, however we can help you, that don't always have to be money. But I mean, I've even tried to help people before with managing their money. Come on, let's sit down, let's write down all the things you pay out, let's write down your credits, let's write down your debits, let's figure out, you're gonna get paid this much. How can I help you?
Wisdom.
You know what I'm saying?
Wisdom.
Exactly.
Trying to give people wisdom, because wisdom will take you further than any paycheck. And a lot of people are looking for more money.
Yeah.
And you don't need more money. You just need more wisdom to maintain,
on.
because I know God has blessed us with little money that has stretched and seemed like it was a lot of money. You know what I'm saying?
Come on.
And a lot of times we have to understand that the blessing is not on more. The blessing is being with the blesser.
Come on.
Because when you are with the blesser, you just have
It
resources.
trickles down.
Exactly.
It
Like, you
trickles
don't,
down.
I can turn $1 into $1,000 because that's just how God works. He just does his thing. And in anything in God increases. It increases.
And we've had people that have come, like teachers, like, I want to work here because I need to get closer to God, and I just want to be around y'all because y'all are godly people. We've had people say that, and that has happened, and I'm just grateful. Come on, you.
I'm reminded of the scripture in Deuteronomy. I believe is chapter 8, verse 18. It says, "But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms His covenant, which He swore to your ancestors as it is today." And a lot of times, like, this goes into what we were saying, it's God that gives you the power to obtain wealth. A lot of times, if you go man's way, you got to stay man's way.
Okay.
But when you go God's way,
He
you're
gonna make all the
always
provisions.
going to have what you need. Because like we always say, He's Jehovah Jireh. He is my provider. I have not lacked since I've known God. Since I've had a relationship with God, I have not lacked in any area. And if there was an area that I lacked temporarily, it was because He was trying to show me
you
something.
teach
He was
you
trying to teach me something. He was
stretch
trying to
you.
give me wisdom in an area, and He didn't want to do it for me. He wanted me to figure it out so that when it happened again,
You
I
was
would
ready.
Exactly.
Ready for it.
So when in God, I always say this: in the presence of the Lord, there's fullness of joy, and at His right hand there are pleasures forevermore. So whenever I'm in His presence, I have His right hand, so I have the pleasures forevermore. There's a scripture in Proverbs 10:22, I believe it says, "The blessings of the Lord, it maketh one rich, and it adds no sorrow."
No sorrow.
When God blesses you with something, you're not going to be sad, upset, trying to maintain it.
Okay.
It's not gonna
Stressed
take you,
out.
Exactly. It's not going to take you away from your family. It's not going to take you away from the things that God has called you to. But when God blesses you, He does it well. But you have to have the heart of a giver.
That's it.
That's our conversation for this week. I hope that in this conversation, God will begin to change the way that you see things, change the way that you look at things. Because if I want to go up, the way up is down. And I have to submit myself, be a servant, but I also have to be a hard worker. Like, if I don't work hard, nothing's coming to me. But I have to see myself there, back into what the video was about, or what the conversation was about. I have to see myself there
it before you see
I
it.
can get there. Like, there, I don't even want to get into some of the things but everything that I have seen myself with it before I got it.
Yeah.
Everything. And not only did I see myself with it before I got it, I also taught myself into it.
Yeah.
And I spoke it. Like, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. We have the power of life and death in our tongue. Like, I speak things into existence.
Absolutely.
And as I speak, God presents the opportunities. I take the opportunities, and then God gives the increase.
Yes.
And that's what this is all about. But if you want to do this, you have to see yourself there. You have to have the heart of a giver. You have to be a giver. You cannot be a taker. And that is the way to abundant life. That's the way. And we have to remember that it is God that gives us the power
Always.
to obtain wealth, because you need power to obtain it, and you also need power to keep it. So that's our conversation, y'all. Just change your mindset. It's tax time. Some of y'all getting y'all taxes soon, already got them. What you gonna do with them?
Pay the people that you owe.
Oh, that's another video. We can't talk about that, because that's another reason why some of y'all don't got no money.
Come on.
You owe too many people, and you don't pay your debts. You're not a man or a woman of your word. God can't bless on top of mess.
Can't do it.
You got to get that stuff right. Get that stuff good. Get that stuff clear. So then when you get a house, can't nobody say, how they get a house and they owe me?
And they owe me.
How they get a car? And if you like me, you buy a piece of bubble gum and you owe me money. I'm like,
that 25 cents could come to me.
How you get that? Because last time I checked, you need. So we gotta, and then we gotta go. But y'all stop doing this, because y'all owe people money, and then y'all on Facebook flexing, and the people that you owe money is trying to take care of their families and stuff, and they looking like, wait a minute, how you? Those shoes are awfully new, and we gotta like be good stewards, have wisdom, have some respect. You know, and just let God bless your money, because he can bless your life, he can bless your finances, and he can bring you into abundance, and he can bring you into good life. But you got to do what you're supposed to do.
That's right.
And that's our conversation. Y'all see y'all. We out of here.